I cannot believe my luck. Look at what we have here. We have 4 hydrangeas that yesterday were thrown into a Home Depot trash can. Can you believe it? My friend Lori, she's given me almost everything in my garden. If you've seen my other gardening videos, you know that she's given me so many beautiful plants. She texted me yesterday and said, "Are you in the mood for a recovery project?" So she knows me. I love plant rescue as much as she does. And I said, of course. So when I went over, I saw that she had 4 hydrangeas for me. They all looked like this one. Unfortunately, this one has not rehabbed as well as the others. I wish I had taken a video, but I really wasn't sure they were going to make it. But they all looked like this, all dehydrated and forlorn. But 3 of them rehabbed amazingly just in the first couple of hours that I watered them. So she was at Home Depot making a return, and she saw these get tossed in a very casual manner into a big trash can. And she said, "Are those being thrown away?" And the people behind the counter said, "Yes, those are trash." And she said, "Well, could I take them?" And they said, "No, we would have to talk to the nursery manager." So she took it into her own hands to go outside and talk to the nursery manager, who came in and said, "Oh yes, these are trash. They look horrible. They should be thrown away." She offered to take them. And finally, he acquiesced. I think people, if you talk to them long enough, are all on board for a rescue project, which is what this was. But in the meantime, while she was outside looking for the nursery manager, more trash was being piled on top. So these were smashed and abused, but they all look like this, guys. And the soil was bone dry. So either they dried out on the shelf or someone brought them back who had purchased them and never watered them. For all I know, they were outside on a couple cold nights as well. We've had a couple of nights of frost in the last couple weeks. So I don't know exactly how they were abused, but they certainly were dry. At any rate, anyone who grows hydrangeas know that they can become dehydrated, but they resurrect very well. And they will recover if you just deluge them with water. So what I did, and she has one at home, she gave me 4 out of 5. She only had room for 1, but she always is so kindly thinks of my garden and of me. So I am the lucky recipient of these 4 beautiful hydrangeas. But she and I both watered them really, really well until the water came out from the base of the plant, and then we came back and watered them again. It's really important when you have a completely droopy hydrangea that you just really, really overwater. So now I'm going to tell you how you can transition these very gradually into your garden and have them for many years to enjoy. And I'm speaking from experience because I have 3 gift hydrangeas that were given to me 25 years ago. They have made it for many, many years in the garden. Some years they bloom, some years they don't, but I'm going to tell you how this is possible. Now, what you have to remember about these is that they have been pumped with fertilizer designed to make them have all of these multiple and glorious blooms. This plant has just been throwing all of its energy due to certain fertilizers and probably over fertilization into these glorious blooms. So what you have to do is not fertilize them. They are heavily, heavily fertilized, and they need a little break. You just need to start trying to transition the plant into focusing on the plant itself, the stem and the leaves. And this one, I guess the leaves were too far gone. It had just dried out too much. But I want to point out and all of the stems are still green. So this is going to go, this is going to get some separate TLC. It's going to be potted by itself. And my plan for these, if all goes well, is to make a little hydrangea hedge out of the 3 of these. And I'm going to enjoy them for years. But the first thing you do, of course, is rehydrate your hydrangeas with lots and lots of water. And then you do not fertilize. It's a common practice when you see a plant that looks terrible to give it a little fertilizer. But these have come from a hothouse where they have been over fertilized. So do not fertilize them. The second thing after you water them is to trim off all the blooms. You want it to switch gears into making leaves and healthy stems and healthy roots instead of putting out all of this energy into blooms. So as hard as it is, you have to trim off all of these blooms, because what's happened here in the hothouse is that it has been forced into thinking it's midsummer, and it has put out all its foliage and all of these blooms early. This is what a hydrangea outdoors looks like in the summertime. And right now where I live in zone 6B7A, we're still getting frosts, and my hydrangeas outside are just erupting from their dormancy. They just have a few small leaves, but they have not put out their full leaf, and they certainly don't have blooms yet. So what we have to do is pile on the water and then trim off all of these beautiful blooms and maybe a little bit of the foliage. Certainly the dying foliage should come off, and any of the broken branches, because obviously this was smashed in the trash can, and you can see it's kind of crushed here. So I will remove this branch. This is the important part. It has to live indoors and slowly be acclimated to outdoor temperatures and outdoor sun. Because although they may have received a lot of light in the hothouse, they've been trucked somewhere in the dark, and then they were in the store under fluorescent lights for a period of time. So who knows how long it's been since they've actually seen real sun. And these are part shade plants anyway, so the last thing you want to do is put it out in the cold in full blasting sun. Aren't they amazing, guys? I just love them. It's going to be rather painful to cut off all these pretty blooms, but I will do it so they will be healthy plants in my garden. And the other thing I wanted to note about these is that the fertilizer that they were pumped with might have had a certain alkalinity or acidity in order to get the pink flowers. So very possibly the following year you might get a different color, because your soil pH might be completely different, and they are very sensitive to soil pH, and it usually dictates what color you get, either pink or blue. And either color is fine with me. I think they're both beautiful. But isn't this exciting, guys? I am so excited, and I wish I had taken some video footage of what they all looked like. This is really, really quite a close example of what they all looked like yesterday. And 3 of them have responded so well. So I have a hedge. So I'll be caring for these inside for a couple weeks. I will take them out on mild, pretty days and set them in part shade locations so they can start getting some fresh air. It's kind of like hardening off your plant. I would say if it's 50 degrees, I'm going to set them out and let them get some fresh air and a little bit of sunshine. I'm going to make sure I keep them watered. They're probably going to be in a room near a window with some fluorescent light, and little by little, as the weather is warming, I'm going to keep them outside longer and longer. And at some point, hopefully I'll put them up in my polytunnel, which will protect them from any cooler temperatures, and they can kind of flush out with their foliage there. And then probably late April or May, I shall plant them in the ground, given that I feel like they're strong enough to take the transition. These are sold year-round. These are grown in greenhouses and hothouses, sent to all kinds of supermarkets and big box stores. And even though they think it's midsummer, you can still very carefully transition them outside and enjoy them in the garden. And I'll show you some of the examples outside, even though it's quite a rainy day. I'm going to show you the ones that I've had for many, many years. A good indicator on when it's safe to put out your foil-wrapped hydrangeas that you've rehabbed and gradually acclimated to come outside is to look at your own hydrangeas in your garden if you have them, or if you don't have them, look around the neighborhood and see if you can spot any, and you will know whether or not it's the right time to put them out. Obviously, March is not the right time to put out a hothouse hydrangea. And as you can see on this hydrangea in my yard, I'm just starting to see leaves erupt. And for your information, this is a foil-wrapped hydrangea that was gifted to me by my mother-in-law 25 years ago. And we do have some new growth in the middle, but this has been outside for obviously 25 years. So this growth will be okay even if we get a cold snap. But guys, that is an example of a foil-wrapped hydrangea that was planted and is still thriving 25 years later. But the real reason I brought you out is to show you that it is clearly not the time to put out a fully leafed out and blooming hydrangea. It is too early. Let me just take a moment to show you my redbud tree. It's fully in bloom. I love redbuds because first of all, they have purple blossoms, but they're one of the earlier trees to bloom, and they're just a joy. But right next to it is another hydrangea my mother-in-law gifted to me. She actually gave me two of these. Both of them are still doing well. This is a lace cap hydrangea, and as you can see, it's also just starting to emerge. The leaves are just coming out. It is still really not warm enough for my trash can hydrangeas to come live outside. But this is a beautiful lace cap one, which I've enjoyed probably again for about 25 years in the garden. This one just moved up here and it seems to like this spot better. I think I had it in too much sun. This is the other lace cap hydrangea that was gifted to me at the same time by my mother-in-law. She loved hydrangeas. She had a very big one in her yard, but she also loved to have those foil wrapped ones in her home when she moved to an apartment. So that's how I ended up with these three beautiful plants, which I've enjoyed for 25, maybe even 30 years. But again, take a look. The leaves are just starting to come out, and they're being a little timid because, as you know, spring temperatures fluctuate. So this is what a cleaned up plant looks like. I have removed all the foliage that didn't dehydrate and all of the gorgeous blooms. Everything has been removed. So now this plant can concentrate on growing healthier roots, stems, and leaves. And by the time I plant it out in my garden, it should be a nice, healthy hydrangea plant. And it won't be overtaxed with all those artificially forced blooms. And this, as you can see, it thinks it's midsummer. It was fully bloomed out, it was fully leafed out, and I have to slowly acclimate it to be outdoors, and I also have to wait until the danger of frost has passed. Even though this is a hardy plant in my zone, it now thinks it's summertime. So that will be a slow, gradual process. But I'm happy to have it all pruned up. And guys, I was so excited to see two tags. Once I trimmed back all of the cascading blooms and dead foliage, I found out that this gift hydrangea was $22.98. So my friend gave me $100 worth of plants. Isn't that amazing? I mean, that is such a generous gift. So thank you so much, Lori. She always thinks of me and my garden, and it's just amazing. I have a beautiful garden because of her. And the other thing, exciting discovery I made was that it was labeled with the variety is called Early Rosa. So now I can look up and see how big they get and what color flowers they're supposed to be, and I can get a preview of what I can expect if these make it in the garden. And I fully anticipate that it will. I'm going to prune them all back. Judging by the plants in my garden, a gift foil wrapped hydrangea can be transitioned to the garden successfully. So thanks so much for watching, and I'll see you next time.